At some point or another in our career, everyone runs into the issue of performance appraisal bias, whether it is due to gender, race, culture, heritage, or any other factor. Performance appraisal can be based on subjective criteria that can sometimes overlook the hard work and talent of an employee. In this video, we'll look at 5 tips on how to combat performance appraisal bias and ensure that your hard work is being recognized correctly in your workplace. Have you ever been victim of a performance appraisal bias? If yes, kindly comment down below. In any workplace, it's important to have a system in place for fairly and accurately assessing employees' performance appraisals. However, even the best performance appraisal systems can be susceptible to bias. Performance biases can creep into the evaluation process, skewing the result and impacting employees' careers. Some performance biases that can occur during performance appraisals include the halo effect, confirmation bias or self-fulfilling prophecies, recency bias, gender bias, radar leniency, stroke severity. Let's talk about the halo effect. The halo effect comes when an employee is perceived positively in one area. Then what happens is that consequently their overall performance is often rated highly as well. On the other side, if an employee is perceived negatively in one area, their whole performance may be seen as poor. Then the confirmation bias or self-fulfilled prophecy. We tend to look for information that confirms our existing belief about someone. For example, if we think that an employee is lazy, we may only remember instances when they didn't work hard, when they actually portray laziness. Recency bias is when we often give more weight to recent events when assessing someone's performance. This can be easily harmful if an employee had a bad month but was performing well until that point. Gender bias is although getting better, gender bias still exists in many workplaces. Women may be judged more harshly than men for the same behavior, or vice versa. Or the success may be attributed to factors other than their own abilities or hard work. Only God can tell what many female colleagues have been through before getting to the heights they are. And the rather leniency or severity. Some supervisors are notoriously easy, some are notoriously very tough graders. When it comes to performance appraisal, this can lead to discrepancy in how different employers are evaluated. This same evaluation actually even goes to the interview stages. Now the question, what actually causes performance appraisal bias? There are numbers of different factors that can contribute to performance appraisal bias. Some of the most common will include, and I'm going to name them, personal belief and preferences. We all have our own personal biases and preferences which can lead us to judge others unfairly. Lack of objectivity. It can be difficult to completely be objective when assessing someone else's performance. Emotional reactions. Our emotions can distort our perception of someone else's performance. For example, we may be more likely to give a positive appraisal to someone we like or a negative appraisal of someone we don't get along with. Limited information can also be one of the reasons. We often have limited information about an individual's performance, making it difficult to make an accurate assessment. This also sometimes leads to what we'll call framing, where we are being framed to think about an employee somehow. It happens mostly when someone else actually was the one assessing that individual and then has to be passed down to us, or when we have actually heard things about an individual, and so that frame of thought begins to guide us as to how to evaluate someone's performance. And the 6th thing would be a pressure to conform. There may be pressure from superiors or peers to rate someone according to predetermined criteria rather than objectively assessing their actual performance. How to overcome performance appraisal bias? There are few things you can do to overcome performance appraisal bias in your workplace. First, be aware of the different type of biases that can occur. Second, try to be as objective as possible when rating someone or others, and then use specific examples and factual evidences or empirical evidences. Use those evidences to support your claim. Finally, don't be afraid to speak up if you feel you've been unfairly evaluated. Remember that performance appraisal are meant to be constructive and improve your work, not to tear you down. Now, let's move quickly to the tips. Tip number 1 is you are to identify and document your success. When it comes to overcoming performance appraisal bias, the first thing you need to do is to identify and document your success. Evidence-based documentation is always important. This may seem like a non-brainer, but it is actually surprisingly difficult for many people. If you don't keep track of your accomplishment, it will be difficult to remember them when it comes time for your performance review. One way to keep track of your success is to maintain a brag file. This can be a physical file or a folder, a notebook that you keep in your office, or it can be an electronic file on your computer. Every time you accomplish something at work, big or small, add it to your brag file. That way, when it comes for your performance review, you'll have a ready-made list of all the great things you've done. Another way will also be for you to make sure that you publicize, you tell the stories of those performances, of those things on social media like LinkedIn and other social media sources, so that where you've forgotten, you can quickly go back to that post and remember it. In addition to maintaining a brag file, make sure to take time to document your successes in whatever system your organization uses for tracking employees' performance. By taking these simple steps, you can make sure that your successes are properly documented and recognized by those who matter the most, your supervisor. 2. Consider asking for specific feedback about your work. Most people feel more comfortable giving generic feedback, but specific feedback is much more useful. If you are not sure what to ask for, try something like this. Can you tell me what I did that made this project successful? Or can you give me an example of a time when my work was particularly helpful? And your reviewer should be able to have an answer to that. Tip number 3 will be to advocate for yourself and take ownership of your growth. When it comes to your career, you are ultimately the one responsible for your own growth and development. No one else is going to advocate for you as strongly as you can. So it's important to be proactive in pursuing opportunities and taking ownership of your own career. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't seek feedback or input from others, far from it. But when it comes time to make a decision about your career, remember that you are the one who will have to live with the consequences, good or bad. So don't be afraid to speak up for yourself, and don't be afraid to make decisions that you think are best for your career. It can be scary at times, but ultimately it will pay off in the long run. Tip number 4, seek out support from peers and mentors. When it comes to performance appraisal bias, one of the best things you can do is to seek out support from your peers and mentors. These are people who have likely been through the process before and can offer valuable insight and guidance. Additionally, they can provide moral support and help you stay positive throughout the process. If you don't have any close friends or family members who work in your industry, there are still plenty of ways to find support from peers and mentors. There are numbers of online forums and networking groups that can connect to, who will be able to share similar experiences with you. Oh, to also add that many companies or organizations also provide us employee assistance program that can connect you with a mentor or a coach. Tip number 5 would be to seek HR advice. HR is the best person to advise you on how you should handle a performance bias issue. Guess what? That's all we've got today. But in conclusion, the right performance appraisal should help employees feel appreciated and give them the recognition that they deserve. With these 5 tips that I have just given, I hope that you have a better understanding of how to overcome biases in your performance appraisal and make sure that you are getting the most out of your career. Whether it is through challenging biased language or by advocating for transparency, make sure that everyone in your workplace has access to fair and unbiased evaluation so you can get the acknowledgement for all your hard work. Once again, I'm answering your career breakthrough psychic. If you feel that this content has actually been very useful, I think it's useful, you kindly just help me share with other persons. You can also subscribe if you haven't and click the notification bell below so that you can get content as fresh as they come. Once again, this is your happy essential. Get happy because you're happy with tips, with ideas, with enforcement, with empowerment to be able to just become the career professional that you want to become. Goodbye.